Here we are. We are live. All right. I'm back from diving, and I have today who's going to be a super cool guest, Mr. Dan Platta with Best Damn Bookkeeping.
I could be Dan Platta. That still rolls off the tongue pretty good. Or maybe it's Best Dan Bookkeeping. Either way,
it goes. Platta. Yeah, that'd be hilarious.
Goes well either way.
Great. Well, I'm a bit spacey because I've done 18 dives in 5 days, and then drove home last night, and I woke up to go to the bathroom this morning, and I've got the waves coming in and the waves going out.
Oh yeah, your body still thinks you're out on the boat.
Yeah, it wants me to be. It's calling me.
I mean, that's fun that way. It's like you get a couple extra bonus days that way. Still half feels like you're out there.
Don't need to smoke weed when you dive.
No, you don't. I was going to ask you that. Is there I think when we dove however long ago, we like spaced it out by a day or two, but if you're diving consecutive days in a row, there's some math that needs to be done, isn't there, about like how long you can be down for?
Yeah, you have surface time, so you get nitrogen narcosis, and you don't want to get the bends, right? So that you have a non-decompression limit, and then the deeper you dive, the shorter amount of time you can spend there. But you've got a dive computer that tells you how many minutes you've got left at that depth, and then you can come up and it'll expand out. But there's no doubt that the nitrogen absorption in the body, that's what, if you have too much nitrogen, then as you ascend, the air expands because you've put it into your body under pressure, and then it expands as you come up.
Oh yeah.
And then if you come up too quickly or
gets you a little sideways
or whatever, you get, well, you're always going to get a buzz off it. But if you come up too quickly, that's when you get the bubbles. When you get the real bubbles in your blood, then you need decompression chambers, and you could die. And
nobody wants that. Nobody wants that.
But so what they do is they manage everything with the computers and maximum dive time, and then the dive computer, then as soon as you hit the surface, it starts the next counter, and then your nitrogen levels are dropping, and so we spend 2 or 3 hours on the surface.
All right, I was going to say you're getting back in the boat and hanging out.
Then you're ready to go again. But everybody has a sleep. Day 1, everybody's still a bit lively, but day 2, 3, 4, 5, as soon as you get up, you're just like you fall asleep. And
oh, dude, I remember that. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah. It's amazing. But you're always, after that you're high, right? You're definitely on a high. And the more body fat you've got, the more you absorb, which is a bit. My son gives me it. I'm not extremely fat, but I have some body fat.
But more than a 12-year-old.
They're more than a lively 12-year-old. So he calls me fat man, which is really complicated.
I mean, it's his job as your youngest is to give you a hard time. That's like he has one responsibility, and that's it.
That's it. And he loves it.
Yeah. Sounds like he's good at it too. Sounds like he's got a knack for it. He's bloody on this boat. He set everybody up to give me a hard time. Like his jokes against me, they all picked up, and then it's all everybody. I get everybody on me. So that's how you know they like you. People don't give you a hard time if they don't like you.
No, and we had this amazing German girl as our guide coach. Dive instructor coach guide. And she said we gave her a lift back to Phuket, and she said I talked to one of the other dive instructors, and she said, you see these two, how much fun they are on the boat? They're just as much fun underwater. Like, because we're, he'll squeeze my fat ass right underwater and then go squidgy, squidgy, right? But he goes squidgy, squidgy, right? And I know that he said squidgy, squidgy with a little squeeze, It's just funny. Oh God. And he sings underwater. So we're diving along and preserving our air and trying. Oh, well, I am. She's got loads of air left at the end of every dive, but he's just singing away. We've got music while we're underwater.
I mean, that keeps the nerves down a little bit and keeps you from sucking too much air. Maybe it works.
Oh yeah. Well, he's chewing through his air, but he's only got little lungs, so he's all right. He doesn't have
That's true.
Big lungs.
See, when I dive, I'm just chewing through my air because I'm like,
yeah,
it's dark down here. What's over there? Was that a shark?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going up.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty, because we're up, more than 40 dives now, and each dive you get more relaxed, more calm, more aware of your buoyancy, more aware of everything. So it's really good.
How
but diving's not the only. No, we started July last year. I chartered a 66-foot sloop in Komodo National Park, Indonesia, and took Harrison, the oldest you just met, and took Ollie, just the three of us, on this huge wooden sloop with a great big point on it, you know. And then we had 7 crew, and we spent 7 days on it and did our open water course from that.
Sweet. So this isn't like a lifelong thing. This is like a new obsession for you.
1 year old. Then I made a tattoo. I'll show you. Are you into tattoos?
I mean, I don't have any, but I like other people's.
I'll see if I can get the. Oh shit! Everything's back to front. Like, that's Ollie.
That's sweet. Ollie. Hell yeah!
And then that's me.
I was gonna say, that looks like you.
And that's Harrison with the Batman.
Oh, badass!
Right. And we're underwater with manta rays and fish and shit like that. So
I dig it.
It's pretty good. So it's bonded us together, the 3 boys. Like, it's really been very amazing. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
But that's not the only thing you do. You do hunting. The first question before, when I said I've been scuba diving, you said, do you do spearfishing? So you like hunting and eating, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you're into, like, I grew up bow hunting, and I thought spearfishing was the coolest thing, because it's the perfect combination of fishing, which I love, and bow hunting, which I love, and then you get to do both of them together somehow. It's like the coolest damn thing. And if you like to eat fish, I'd always rather go get it myself than have somebody else get it for me. So,
oh man, like, even Ollie and I we've got this. I was telling you just earlier, like, with this Hobie cat with 2 outriggers and a 20-foot sail, and we go out sailing through the bay into the open water, and then drop a line off the side, and we don't catch big fish, like,
but
12 inches.
Just something out there.
And we bring it back, and we cook for Mum and Grandma. They were over here a couple of weeks ago, and we cooked them on the barbie. And Grandma sent back the skeleton without a.
She doesn't let anything go to waste.
No meat on it at all. She just sent back the perfect, like Pinterest type skeleton of a fish.
Nothing going to waste.
That was her compliment to us for catching dinner. But, like, it was only an appetizer, to be fair. It was probably that big.
Hey, at least she
jumped on it.
Yeah, she's a machine. I do find this is like an observation, but I think there's got to be something to it, which is business owners tend to choose hobbies that are challenging and stressful. I think it's like a knack that we have, where we're just like, I need something really hard to do that takes a lot of time and effort and money, and then I'm going to get into it. Like, that's the hobby I want. And so we just get out there, do hard stuff. That's what we like.
And then, I mean, part of business is, you serve the business so hard, and then the business has to serve you at some point. It's not I always say, like, a business is like a baby. Like, you feed the baby. The baby doesn't feed you. You can't draw too much from a baby business, so you've just got to suck it up and say, okay, I've got to put everything in to get this little baby. But once it gets up, to a certain size, and that size doesn't have to be massive, it's just got to be profitable. And then once you get it up to that size, then it can start looking after you. And for us, for Harrison and me, it was travel. We wanted to be able to travel. And now Harrison, because I'm like 62 now, so I'm getting long in the tooth. So Harrison said, look, go away and, go and have some fun, live some life. And then Ollie's mum said, hey, take Ollie out of China, because he was born in China. So she said, take him, put him in an international school. And so she's still working. And so it's just him and me live together on the beach, on the water, and, just do all these wild things. And then he broke his leg 10 weeks ago.
Oh, shit. And he was still out scuba diving last week?
Yeah. So he got the clearance 4 days before from the doctor that he's okay to scuba. Yeah. So I said,
I mean, when you're down there, right, the pressure, you got pressure on the top, pressure on the bottom, gravity's a little less.
Yeah, that won't. But the risk that we were worried about is the air bubble, because he had a radial break. It's by the way, I'll just give you a tip. When your kids grow really quickly, that is not real bone. That is honeycomb just bone,
cartilage stuff.
The doctor said to me, he said the break that Ollie did, he was on a 300 Honda. I was getting him taught clutching gear, because in China we've got electric motocross bikes, and they're only like 50 kilos, 110 pounds, right, total with the battery. And so we can just throw them down and fall off them and roll, and we don't care, right? Because they're so easy to pick up, right? But then I wanted him to get clutch and brake training, because he hasn't ever used a bike with that. So I took him to this Thai champion, and he bloody stalled on a straight bit of track, and then he didn't realize he'd stalled because the guy hadn't taught him properly, so he didn't pull the clutch in. Then the bike's falling over. Then he puts his leg out, and his 60 kilograms,
just all that weight.
130 plus the bike is another 300 pounds, like, total 350 pounds coming down, and the bone just broke like radial, like a spiral.
Oh, damn.
And the doctor said he didn't do anything wrong. It's just, he said, normally we see it when a kid tries to dunk a basketball and lands,
then they come down.
And they get the spiral break. And he's already got another kid in his class that's broken the leg the same way.
Huh.
So, but just when your kids go through that growth spurt, just watch out for high impact. It's I never knew it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put them on that big bike. But yeah, so then the doctor's worried about the air bubbles, because it's not a snap where you get a clean break and a clean weld.
Yeah,
right? It's
different to morph that baby back together.
It's a lot of surface area broken. So he said there's air bubbles inside. So I was a bit worried about air bubbles expanding. And
especially going down.
Yeah, and because it's a spiral break, it's vulnerable to this force here, more vulnerable to twists and that than otherwise. So, but anyway, but we got a clearance because we were going to go diving with Harrison, who you just met, and in February, but 3 days before Ollie broke his leg, and then we were going to push it into the next holidays, but the doctor said, nah, that leg ain't good enough if you hit a current and you have to really push hard,
you gotta give her help.
That break is not healed enough yet. So it's good. So we did that. All right. What else do you do for meat?
Bow hunting is the main thing. I got 3 freezers in the basement, and it's mostly white-tailed deer. Got some fish in there, but it's mostly white-tailed deer. I kind of have a quota, and I'd say it's probably actually my wife's quota, which is like, if I'm going to hunt as much as I do, I better bring some shit home. No excuses. Like, bring me some food. And my wife has really gotten into the food side of it. She'll come out hunting with me, but she has expectations that there's going to be meat coming back in the house. And so we just don't buy beef in our house. I'll buy some pork here and there. I'll get some pork to mix with the venison, and then fish.
And what about boar? Do you do boar hunting? Or are there no boar up there?
There's none up by. I shouldn't say there's none up by us, but it's not like it is in the southern U.S. where it's like you can go out and shake a stick and you'll get one.
Harrison went boar hunting for the huge convention last year. Harrison, I sent him over like 5 days early. I said, go and get your jet lag out of the way.
Yeah,
we went and met our buddy down in Florida, and he's got land with boar on it, but he chartered this huge monster truck, right, with infrared sights and bloody like all the gear and recording. So Harrison sent back the shot of him shooting and hitting the pig. That was great. So
it's amazing, like the way you can hunt pigs, because they're just a huge varmint, and it's funny. It's like they want to get rid of them all, but they kind of don't, because it's so much fun to chase them around. And so it's like if somebody that's pro pig hunting for the sake of kind of exterminating them, because they're such an invasive, like destructive species. Yeah. If you ever like gave them the power to just wipe them all out, I think you'd find a lot of them would be like, I don't know if I want to kill all of them.
Oh yeah, see,
like I kind of like having them around. Like if you cook them right, they're pretty tasty. They're super fun to chase.
That's it. Rich. They bought the one or two that they brought back. They hung them and skinned them and chopped them up, and they took them home. So which I like. I like if you kill to eat. I think.
And I find it's it'd be similar to like a store-bought turkey versus a wild turkey. Like wild turkey does not taste at all like store-bought turkey, but that doesn't mean it's bad. You just have to know how to cook it and prep it and deal with it. Just like any wild game, it can be fantastic, but you can't just overcook it on a grill and expect somebody to like it. Venison's the same way. venison can be the best meat you've ever had, but if you screw up cooking it, it's going to be the worst meat you've ever had. And boar kind of falls into that camp. It doesn't taste anything like a normal pig that we're used to. No. But if you know what you're doing with it, she'd be pretty tasty.
Well, what I find fascinating, the reason I wanted to interview you is because you seem pretty cool. And it's not very often that accountants...
I fooled you.
Well, it's not very often, because I started my accountancy degree. I got 2 distinctions, 2 credits, thought it was too easy and said, I'm off to work. Right. I said, but I always regretted that, because I thought I would have made a great accountant, because I've got a little bit of charisma and, and me and numbers, I'm a little bit blasé on numbers, always have been, but the bookkeeper he measures it, right? The bookkeeper tells you, if you can trust your bookkeeper, and I'm not saying that you can trust your bookkeeper, because I used to sell bookkeeping systems way back when Kalamazoo, the carbon copy, check writing systems and all that. I used to that was my business. And I used to run around, and I sold to McDonald's and Wendy's and Taco Bell and Pizza Hut and all these different franchises, as well as all the locals. But the one lesson that I walked away from that, which I've passed on to Harrison, is that I saw a lot of guys in their 60s and 70s running businesses, and I say, what the hell are you running your business for?
Why are you still you might as well be president of the US. You're so old.
That's great. But they said I retired and put a manager in or an accountant in.
Oh, yeah.
And that guy screwed my business or stole my money. And now here I am, just, peddling the pedals again. And you would have, anyway, the bookkeeper is so critical. The only person who can steal from you easily is your bookkeeper.
If you don't know how to give them the right access.
Yeah, that's true. You can have that, but this is going back in the old days when it was a check and, boss, please sign, or I'll sign for you, or what, you know what I mean? Yep. Like now it's tighter. I agree with you, actually. I agree. But, I think the relationship with the accountant is really, or the bookkeeper, I should say bookkeeper. Are you qualified accountant as well? Did you go through to finish?
I didn't go get my CPA.
Right.
I had the credits for it, but I never... I went into the corporate world and I did accounting for like a day, and I was like, oh, this sucks. Like in the corporate world, it's just like, here's the same thing and you're going to reconcile it over and over and over again. I was like, I got a pretty damn good salary coming out of college. I don't regret that. But at the same time, I was like, I just can't do this very long. So, it was never the accounting. I majored in accounting, finance, and economics, and it was really the finance side, which the 3 of those all go together. I would say economics is like the theory of how the world is supposed to work and people are supposed to behave, not necessarily in practice, but very theoretical. The accounting is the keeping track of numbers. And then finance is the bridge between the two. It's like, how are people supposed to behave and what do the numbers say? And now let's make decisions. So finance to me was always like the pinnacle of it, which is what business owners do. All we do all day is make decisions.
Yes.
So that was the sexy thing to me, but I felt like knowing the accounting was really important to be able to make those decisions. So I went into accounting for a minute, and then I transferred into at the company I was at, which is Cargill, a big international food company.
Right.
I went into risk management. So I was trading corn commodities, soybean meal. I called it sling and chicken feed. Like I was trading futures and options contracts to lock in the price of the grain that would be fed to the chickens, so McDonald's could keep their dollar burrito at $1. I actually went to China. I was in Shanghai for a while, helping them create a risk management program for some poultry farms we were building out there.
Yeah. Well,
so I got some cool.
I'll give you like my little story, because I lived in Shanghai for 3 years, and then we lived. Did you ever go to Ningbo? Ningbo is 2 hours south by fast train, like 200 miles.
No. I don't believe I went that.
Okay, so
I went in, but I didn't go south.
Right, that's where our factory is. That's where Harrison is right now. And but Ollie's born and bred and went to school in Shanghai. And Shanghai has 27 million people. But just talking about poultry,
It's bonkers.
Right?
It took me like an hour on a train to get out of Shanghai. It felt bigger than New York City. It's massive.
It is bigger than New York City, bro.
It's crazy.
And it's twice the size of New York City.
That explains why I was on a train for an hour and was still like among skyscrapers.
Yeah, that's it. That's the first. I remember when I first got there, I'm just taking a video out the taxi window and go, I've already been driving for 30 minutes and I have not seen anything but skyscrapers.
Yeah, I'm still just downtown.
And you can drive for an hour and a half through Shanghai on a freeway and only see skyscrapers.
I mean, but sometimes an hour and a half on a Shanghai freeway is about a quarter mile. So
yeah. Sometimes, but not often. They've got it down pat now. I'm coming back to poultry, but now the traffic management is if you don't have Shanghai number plates, you can't use the freeways on most hours. There's a couple of hours you can use them. Yep. So
interesting.
And then you have to buy Shanghai number plates. Shanghai number plates right now you go into a lottery for them because more people want them.
Yeah.
Than have them. And you go. So Ollie's mum got hers. She bought herself a Porsche, and it took her 3 months to get number plates for it. So she couldn't drive a new Porsche for 3. She waited 7 months.
Though.
Made in Germany before they get made in America. Now Porsche are going to be made in America, but when it was made in Germany, and took 7 months to get there, and then 3 months she couldn't drive it because she didn't have number plates for it, and that $20,000 for Shanghai number plates.
That's nuts.
20,000 USD
crazy
for number plates.
But
if you don't have Shanghai number plates, you can't drive in Shanghai.
Yeah, so like what the good is the point? Yeah.
And then now 40% of cars in Shanghai are electric. 45% maybe.
Okay.
Like it's super. But then the way they did that is you got free number plates if you bought an electric car.
Got the incentives in there.
So everybody's like $20,000 a head, just like that, and it cost the government nothing.
Yeah.
You know. So, but going back to poultry, if everybody in Shanghai ate 1 egg per day, that's 2 million dozen eggs a day.
It's nuts.
Like when you talk about risk management for poultry in Shanghai, you're talking big numbers.
Yeah. And it was that whole region we were looking at. We were doing when we were in China, we were working on broilers, like the meat chickens, but it was KFC and McDonald's that had like a booming presence there.
Yes.
And so they were trying to figure out, and the markets in China are goofy. Like markets in China aren't as stable as they are in the US. So then trying to like figure out how you can use those to hedge your price risk. And eggs are pretty easy.
90% of the money invested in the Shanghai stock market, I think, if it's true, like fact check me, but is the people's money.
Mm-hmm.
It's not BlackRock or Vanguard. It's the people.
Well, right? And the commodities are,
then on WeChat, mm-hmm. people are like, and Ollie's mum, she's got a friend who works as a cleaner in a securities firm, right? And the cleaner goes through all the paperwork and everything and gives tips. You can't believe it. It's like
hot tips.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Oh, it was interesting. It was a little bit like the Wild West, I felt like, when we were trying to create a program because of the volatility of it.
Yeah.
But that was fun. But at the same time, it was like I enjoy traveling, but I really enjoy the Midwest of the United States, so I can go do my hunting and fishing stuff that I do here.
Yeah, you can't do that there.
No, and so they
already ate everything.
I was at this tipping point where I was like on the fast track, and the problem with being on the fast track at a big company is you start to get owned. Like they pay you too much to leave, and like the next step was I was about to get sent for a couple of years over here and a couple of years over there. And so it's like, you have to have that global experience. And I want to run a business. I don't know if I want to run a $4 billion business, but like, that's what you're getting lined up to do. Right. And so it's like, do I want to do that? And then my life really isn't mine, right? Like you're getting paid a lot of money to run that business. Yeah. And I think that'd be cool, but we only get to do this once, Perry. Like, What are we doing here? What's the point of all this?
It's ain't no dress rehearsal. There's no rewind button.
Yeah. And so I just kind of had this realization that I could always go back, but if I just stayed there and never like tried doing entrepreneurial stuff, there's a pretty good chance I'd look back and be like, man, fuck the great money. Like, what was I doing? What was the point of all of it?
I noticed on your profile you've got fire entrepreneur.
Do I?
Yeah. Was there a? It said like helping people get out of corporate into being entrepreneurs or something like that. They may have inspired you. You may have written it down when you got inspired to get out of corporate, like, years and years ago.
Yeah. And I'm not like intentional about it, but just like telling the story of it, I think is important because there's a lot of people sitting there that are too risk averse to take the leap. And there's a lot of ways to take the leap, right? When I first started doing entrepreneurial stuff, I joined a company that was already in existence. I didn't just start my own company out of thin air the first time.
Right.
I'm a nerdy finance dude. I was way too risk averse for that. So I had a buddy that had bought some small businesses and I was like, that's cool. How can I help? So I actually started doing bookkeeping for him and like moonlighting and doing some M&A stuff with him and just being a finance nerd for him behind the scenes. And I started buying shares and then I came in and started running the business and we grew it. We had 100 employees kind of around the US at one point in time. And I'll say, like, frankly, it was miserable. It was a terrible business model. But it's one of those things where it's like, I won't do that again. It was kind of in hindsight, it was a terrible business model. But I don't regret it because it gave me a ton of experience of running home service businesses in different markets and how to recruit and how to market them and how to do the finances for them. And so I think it was 2018, just a buddy of mine that was like in the same industry, the window cleaning, pressure washing space, was like, hey, I'm trying to bring on this investor and my books are a mess and they won't give me any money because X, Y, and Z. Like, can you, like, how do you guys do this? And I was like, well, I do it. I'm an accounting nerd. And he's like, you know this stuff? And I was like, yeah, man, this is like what I do. And he's like, well, can you take a look at mine? I was like, man, I don't know what the hell happened to yours. Like, you're paying somebody how much to do this for you? And so I went through and fixed all this stuff in QuickBooks. And then the old, like, no good deed goes unpunished. The next thing he asked was, can you just keep doing it for me? And like, what's that going to cost? And as a good old redneck boy from Wisconsin, I was like, case of beer, probably like a case of beer. We'll call it good. But so that was really my entry into doing bookkeeping for other people, was just got a lot of experience running small businesses. And I just happened to be an accounting nerd. And you put those two things together and might as well run an accounting style business.
But you were never on the tools, is that right? Because I noticed in your profile that you worked for Blue somebody, was it?
Blue Skies. We had
Blue Skies. That's
window cleaning, pressure washing, maid service businesses.
Yeah, but you're never on the tools, right?
I was. When I first joined, the first thing I did was actually start a maid service business. I was out scrubbing toilets every day, trying to like manage 100 employees. That was step one of the stupid decisions. I scratched a lot of windows. I oxidized some houses in my day. I did all the things that we do when we're like learning and getting up to speed. But I'm kind of one of those guys that I'm just going to work 110% and go really fast and figure it out as I go. And I'll learn the fastest that way. So I was out in the field for a while, but with so many businesses, it just didn't make sense for me to stay out in the field.
Right.
And then especially as I started bringing on bookkeeping clients, it's like, now I really can't be out in the field because now I'm starting a bookkeeping business. We had a recruiting business at the same time. And so we just had this administrative thing and then all these locations. And with little kids, especially, like at the time I had my first kid when I left the corporate world and started doing small business stuff. So that was pretty shitty timing.
That's pretty normal.
Yeah. And so
men make the dumbest mistakes as the first baby pops out,
it's just like, I'm going to prove something. I don't know what else.
Yeah. What am I going to do? I've got a baby. I've got to do something.
Yeah. But yeah, so started, building and kind of learned what I was good at, which is the nerdy finance stuff and talking smart and helping people with their finances. And I wasn't great at flying around the country trying to run maid service businesses all over the place. I think if I would have been more focused And we all kind of suffer from that as entrepreneurs, as we get so distracted and shiny object syndrome out the wazoo. And so just getting rid of those external businesses and focusing on the admin stuff served me pretty well. And just in the last, and this to kind of what motivates us and some stuff you were talking about earlier, in May, June, I tried to buy out my partners from that business because I just came in as like a minority partner, didn't really own any. I was buying shares the whole way up. And then I kind of did the stupid thing where I grew something too big that I couldn't afford it. And so the price that it made sense for me to pay for it was about half of what they wanted for it. And I was like, well, now what? Like, the reason I left the corporate world was to stop making money for other people. And now here I am making money for a bunch of other people. So like, I need to not do this. And so either you guys got to sell it to me for this or I got to leave. And so it turned into me leaving. But I got to like make it totally mine, right? Who names their company Best Damn Bookkeeping and puts a beer mug in the logo? Just had to do that. That's totally me. And when you have investors, you naturally, and this wasn't something they were pushing me to do, but whenever you're working for somebody else, money becomes the objective. And your decisions get clouded by how much money things can make you. And you make, not that you make terrible decisions as a result of it, but a little more short-sighted.
Yes.
And so in this business, it's been a blessing to not at all be focused on money. Not that money's not important, but having the goal be money misleads the result. And so being able to focus on the process and the real goal for me, which is I want to have like zero attrition. I'm building this to have the best damn bookkeeping business. And that's it. But as a result, there will be plenty of money. I'm just not worried about the money. Like, I want to make sure my employees have the best coworkers in the world. I mean, they're kind of hoes because they're for sure not going to have the best boss in the world, but they could at least have the best coworkers in the world, you know? Like, I can do that for them. So I'm just super anal about who I'm hiring and who I'm attracting to the team. And they got to be the right fit, and super anal about doing an awesome job for our clients and making sure we communicate. Because bookkeeping is not a rocket science. It actually just comes down to the communication. If we communicate really well, the bookkeeping is really easy.
And a successful, you know, when you do bookkeeping, you know, the opportunity is that it seems to me, you know, listening to you, is that there's an opportunity for Dan to talk finance with you if that is part of the progression, you know, the opportunity, you know, you're making more money than you need to live. So you got some disposable. What are you going to do? Are you going to invest it or are you going to live it? You know, like that's, isn't it? Like, because you've been there, you know, you get where money goes. You get how big money can get, you know?
Yeah. And you were making the point earlier that bookkeeping and accounting are two different things. And I'm going to articulate that a little bit, because I think like bookkeeping gets morphed into accounting. And when we say accounting, like it just kind of all falls under like, oh, bookkeeping and taxes. That's the same thing. But to me, in the way we serve our clients, bookkeeping is really a finance thing. It's a decision-making tool. It is not something you do to get your taxes done. Like anybody could do your taxes with bank statements and a box full of receipts. That's not bookkeeping. That's just doing your taxes. Taxes is an after the fact thing. Bookkeeping helps the taxes get done timely and way easier, but that's not the point of it. That's just like an externality benefit of it. The whole point of bookkeeping is that the business owner has great data, knows exactly what it's saying, and knows exactly what to do with it. And if they have that, they make better decisions, they grow faster, and they tend to make more money. So that's what our goal is we want them to have better clarity, make faster decisions, and make more money so they can go help more people.
That's great. What do you reckon is the biggest, firstly, I totally agree that the biggest misconception is that bookkeeping is not, that bookkeeping is just bookkeeping. You know, it's not just record keeping. It's the bookie's ledger, you know, like, isn't it? Like, you know, have you ever watched Peaky Blinders?
I have. Somebody was just bringing that up the other day. I've only watched a couple episodes, and now I'm like, shit, now I've heard it twice within like 3 days. So clearly I got to get in there and watch
it. That's it, right? It's the ledger, you know, it's the, you know, it's the punt. If you haven't got a ledger, you don't know what you're punting or what your risk is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the tab, you know. But so that's the first, because my question is going to be, what do you reckon is the biggest misconception or the biggest error? And I think the biggest misconception is probably just the misunderstanding of what is bookkeeping.
Yep.
But then what do you reckon are the biggest errors people make when they're discerning the data or not discerning the data? You know what I mean? Like, what do you come across? What's the thing that you think you naturally, by the nature and character of who you are, you can just bring something to the table that somebody just didn't get? They knew it, but they didn't. You know, if you know it but you don't do it, you don't know it. And you must come across 1,000 people like that.
Yeah. To the first question about just like what's the, you know, where people go wrong with thinking what bookkeeping is. Yeah, it's thinking that it's a tax thing, but that leads them to make a bad decision about who should be doing their books, because they either take it too far or not far enough, which is, I see a lot of people have their CPA and their tax person do their bookkeeping,
right?
Which, like, at a first glance, you'd be like, oh yeah, of course. Like, they already need the data. Why wouldn't I just have them do my bookkeeping? And the reason why I find it doesn't work out, and I'm not saying this is for every CPA ever, but I tend to find CPAs aren't a good bookkeeper, just like your salesperson is not a good customer service person or a technician. It's two different jobs, two different purposes.
The best salesman. Yeah.
Yeah. And it tends to be that when a CPA is the one doing the books, they're not going to do it for you. They're going to do it for themselves. They're going to organize your data in a way that makes their life easier. They're not going to organize your data and report it back to you in a way that helps you make business decisions. They might organize it in a way that helps you make tax decisions. But again, that's like after the fact shit. That's not going to tell you, are you paying your employees the right way? Is your marketing working? Is now the right time to rent a location or hire an admin person? Like, those are the decisions you're making, not should you expense or depreciate this vehicle this year or next year. Like, that's an easy fucking decision to make at the end of the year. That's not going to help you run your business better and manage your employees better. So I see them do that. They hire their CPA to do bookkeeping for themselves and not for the client. Or I see them use like their sister-in-law's cousin. And you're like, who's doing your books? And it's like, oh, they know how to do it. They've done some bookkeeping before. And I'm like, and so they know how a power washing business works and like how you should categorize stuff? No, they don't know anything about your business. Your bookkeeper should know your industry, how to measure stuff for your industry, the types of vendors that you use, the types of shit you buy and sell. Like, they need to know your stuff. And if your bookkeeper doesn't know your stuff, then what good are they? Like, then they might as well be the tax person, because they don't actually know how you run your business. They've never run it before. They don't understand where stuff goes. So I tend to see people kind of dumb it down too far and act like it's just categorizing transactions. And they do that. I tend to see that happen because the business owner doesn't look at the data anyway. So they're like, well, it's not that important to me anyway, so I might as just have Joe Blow do it, because what's the difference? Yeah. So that's what I tend to see happen when they misinterpret what bookkeeping is really for. As to part two of your question, which I think was like, what's the thing that they do wrong with that data? To me, it's they don't look at it often enough because they don't quite understand it, right? And I think that's where a good bookkeeper can come in, because a good bookkeeper should be able to teach you what your data says. And a couple of my account managers were on and commenting earlier, and that's their job. Wow. Their job is to own your data and teach you what it says. It's like if you're Neo and you're in the Matrix, you got to read those green numbers and letters going down the screen, and you're like, I don't know. Hell yeah! That's their job, is to read the Matrix to their clients. They need to know what's happening in your business and tell you what's happening so that you can make better decisions. And so what I tend to see when people are not using it to its full effect is their books will look something like they've got some revenue coming in, and maybe they've got some cost of goods sold. And I would say cost of goods sold is like whatever it takes you to be out doing the job that you're doing.
Yep.
In the cleaning space, it's usually labor, supplies and materials and equipment, and maybe some fuel. And I'd put like customer damages, repairs and stuff in there. And then it's all the other expenses. The end.
Yep. Our office. Yeah.
Yep. It's like 50 other line items, and you will never be able to tell what the fuck's happening in there because it's just a jumbled mess. So then the business owner looks at their top line, and their bottom line and their bank account and says,
Yeah.
can I make payroll this week, or am I going to be still in business tomorrow? And then they kind of move on.
Or have I got shitloads in the bank? I mean, that's how we run, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've got shitloads in the bank.
Like, okay, I'm good.
We've got more in the bank this month than last month. We've got more in the bank next month than this month, you know?
Yep. And so when we do it, I like to break it down. There's only 5 decisions we make as business owners. Like, it's really pretty simple. There's a lot of details that go into the decisions, but when we do the bookkeeping for people, and I love this for home service business owners, because none of us got into this game to keep track of our shit. We got into it because we can go clean that, and we can go clean this, and we can wrench on that or wrench on this. Nobody got into this game because they're like, yeah, I'm going to go do this plumbing, but really I just like QuickBooks. And so I just need something to do to give me a reason to go into my QuickBooks every day. That is not a thing that any of us, maybe besides me. Maybe I was the only one that said that, but everybody else probably said that.
Yeah.
So when we organize the books, like, it's for that dude that doesn't want to look at this stuff, right? That's the client. They don't want to look at this stuff. So we just break it down into 5 decisions. You've got your cost of goods sold, your production related decisions, what it's going to cost you to go produce that job. And that's really the only like expense you have as a business owner. I mean, there's obviously a lot of line items. Like I said, you got wages and fuel and supplies and tools and equipment and stuff, everything out in the field. And your gross margin is after that. And that doesn't mean that's the amount of money you made. Usually when you're starting out, like, that feels like the amount of money you made because you don't have a scaling business. And then soon you have to start spending money on other stuff, and you go, oh shit, I don't have any money left. But there's 4 different decisions you have to make as to where to invest in your business. And they tend to happen in this order. The first decision you make is marketing, like client acquisition decisions. And that might be your ad spend, or who does your SEO, or maybe a Google review software, or a pricing software tool like Responsibit or something like that. So you've got this marketing line item for client acquisition decisions. Like, you can get really nerdy and break down all the detail in there, but at the end of the day, every decision right there is just a client acquisition decision. And that's it. And you're just looking at your acquisition costs and trying to get it as low as possible and get the best result from it. As you put more into that investment, it creates more leads, which creates more clients and follow-ups and estimates and emails and text messages. And therefore you need administrative resources, because somebody's got to get back to all those clients and do the customer service for all those clients, sell all those clients, bookkeep for all those clients. So then you start adding administrative overhead. And those are all your people infrastructure decisions, which is, what roles do I need to support the growth of this business? Like, businesses don't grow themselves. People need to use that marketing to turn those leads into clients and grow that revenue. So your second investment is usually people infrastructure. As you get more people need tools to run their shit too. And they need a place to sit sometimes. And so you end up with rent, liability insurance, software, utilities, internet bills, whatever. All these like recurring things where, whether you do twice as much revenue next month or half as much revenue next month, like, you still, your rent bill is still showing up and your insurance is still showing up. So you get this like baked in infrastructure, which is really hard to time out. Like, when you're going to go rent a facility, when's the right time to do that? And how much can you afford? It's a scary investment. And it's like the worst. And I'm not saying don't go rent a facility, but it's the worst investment that you can do, because Mrs. Jones isn't going to pay you anymore because you went and rented a big shop.
No,
like, it's just straight up money out of your pocket. And at a tipping point, you need it, mostly because your spouse is going to kill you if you have any more dudes show up at your house in the morning, right?
Or a local council will say, sorry, dude. Like, we had a guy the other day, he's got like 5 acres or something, but he got told he's only allowed 1 truck on. He's allowed to run a business, but he's only allowed 1 truck. On
guess that boy's getting a shop.
Yep.
The guy's getting a shop. And like, those fixed overhead ones are just goofy because you can't really get rid of them too easily. Like, once you have a shop, you're kind of stuck there. Once you have a CRM, you're not going back to paper. It's not happening. You might change your subscription level or do something different. Once you're paying for like a VoIP phone system, you might switch VoIP phone systems, but you're probably not going back to just people calling your cell phone. Right. So every time you layer up infrastructure, you're kind of stuck with it. And the only way to get it back in line is to grow your revenue. So see marketing and admin. So that was decision set number 3 as far as investments go. And decision set number 4 with investments is just frugality, reactive type of stuff. Your fixed overhead, which was decision 3, is all proactive stuff that you put in place. Your last one is all reactive stuff. The biggest one is usually repairs and maintenance, because when something goes down, today you might fix it with duct tape. Tomorrow you might wrench on it or watch a couple YouTube videos and do what I do when like my plumbing goes down. I'm like, I got this, honey.
That's it.
Or at some point you make a decision to pay somebody else to deal with it because you're too busy or you don't have the skills or the time or whatever the case is. So repairs and maintenance is variable. Like it's not, you can't say we got to change the oil in the truck just because we went on to Mrs. Jones's house, right? Like we know it's going to happen, but you might change your own oil. You might change it with this oil versus that oil, or you might just take it in, or you might pay a maintenance dude to work on it for you at your own shop. You have all these different alternatives. Recruiting is another big one in there. And I would say that's probably if you're in the service space, the most important thing in your business is your people. And so if you're not spending money on finding the right people and employee engagement stuff to keep the right people, like you're missing out, because running a business with shitty people really sucks. I've done it before. I'm like adamant that I'm not going to make that mistake again. And so just like, you got to make sure, especially again, like you are in the people business. I don't care what you're doing in the service industry. Your product is the person that goes out and serves the client.
Yes.
And so you have to have the best ones. And for your sake, make sure you do, because running a business with shitty people sucks. And it sucks for you, but it also sucks for all of their coworkers. And also sucks for all the clients that have to deal with
all
them.
of the customers. Yeah.
It's brutal. It's like a triple loss. So just make sure you have the best employees. So like spend money on recruiting. Don't get weird about not boosting job ads. Like boost the shit out of those job ads. We had one year, Perry, in our Minneapolis window cleaning pressure washing business. We spent $33,000 on job boosting. We were right around $1 million business. So that was like 3+% of our revenue went to finding applicants. It was 2020. So like the labor market was really goofy post COVID and stuff like that. It was the damn best investment we ever made. We had 15 dudes that were frickin' studs. And after that, it was just like, this business got so much, we grew 30% that year. We had been like hanging around $1 million for a while. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, this business grows itself when you have really good dudes. Like, oh, weird. Everybody shows up on time. Everybody wants to go knock out the last job of the day. People are willing to come in on Saturdays. All of a sudden, like you have people that want to work and are excited to be there and are showing up and helping out and coming with ideas, and customers are raving about them, and your Google reviews goes up and your referrals goes up. It paid for itself like immediately. It was the stupidest thing that we like. It still sounds crazy when I say that number, because like we don't have to spend that much anymore and we can get more applicants now. But it was the best investment we ever made. But again, like I call it a variable investment, because it's a reactive investment. It's not we're not locked into it. And like we could scale it back to 0, or we could double down on it tomorrow. And so it's more of a reactive or frugality, type of investment. Or travel. If you're going to go to a huge convention, you guys obviously have a little bit of a ways to travel. And so the travel and the meals and entertainment, and are you going out for a steak? And are you having a fancy cocktail, or are you having a Busch Light with Dan?
Shout in the bar.
Yeah. All these things are variable decisions. And when money's tight, you're going to be more frugal. And when money's loose, you're like, let's go. And so that's your fourth growth decision. But it's still like, if you're going to the huge, that's still a growth investment. It still needs to make you more money, or it's a shitty investment. And so business gets pretty easy.
$10,000-$15,000, to go to the huge. Something like that. It's real money.
It's a chunk of change. Yeah. But when you
a lot of diving.
Down, yeah, right. You're giving up a lot of diving for that. But I mean, like when you boil that down, that's only 5 different types of decisions you need to make. And when you're scaling a business, it becomes really predictable. And I see this being a bookkeeping nerd looking at it for our clients, which is like where people get hung up as they're scaling a business is really predictable. We tend to all get hung up in the same spots. When we're first starting out, we get hung up in cost of goods sold because we try to hire a guy and then we got to train him and then he doesn't work out. And so we train 2 guys and then we're like out of money. There's no money left for us. Eventually we find that dude and then it turns into marketing, right? We just work our way down the P&L. Now we're trying to figure out, I can't just go by word of mouth. I got to start spending money on marketing. And then this thing's working, but that thing broke. And then I dumped 20 grand into this and that was a fucking dud. Like screw postcards. I'm moving on, but whatever it is. And then you start hiring admin people. And then you're like, how do I get these admin people to grow my revenue? Like I'm sitting out here trying to grow everything and they're just kind of showing up. And it just keeps happening. We just keep working our way down. But it becomes really predictable. And then you can at least focus on working on the right things. And again, That's your bookkeeper's job, is to read that matrix to you and say, hey, Perry, it looks like your marketing isn't returning the way you want it to, or it looks like your admin is a little high. And so maybe you need to incentivize your team differently, or like reconnect them to your revenue to get them to grow your revenue a little bit more, whatever it is. But like, we're your tour guide. We got to make sure you know what's working, what's not working, and what you can do about it.
Nice.
Dude. And with that, I need to open another beer. Good thing I brought a second beer. Always prepared.
Good on you. Yeah, I'm on soda water.
There you go.
Because it's.
I mean, it is. What time is it there?
In the morning.
Hey, never stop me, Perry. That never stopped me. Actually,
don't worry. I will promise you, it's never stopped me either. Sunday mornings, UFC. So UFC is on a Sunday morning for us.
Oh right? Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah. So Harry and I, when I was in China, every Sunday we'd go down and we'd get our guy. We had a little bar that serviced to the foreigners, and that poor guy, like, he's open till, because China never closes a bar if there's somebody in the bar. Well, certainly not once you get out of Shanghai, the major cities. So the major cities have got more rules, but if you get to Ningbo and there's somebody in the bar's open.
Keep her going.
So they'll just keep serving whiskey or beer or whatever.
Wow.
And so we've been there till 4 a.m. or whatever, but they stay there till 4 a.m. But we've already pre-booked them. Can you open at 6 or 9 or whatever?
Come in and pour
and he walks in, like, unlocks, and then we go, big breakfast, beer, like big screen, UFC. Yeah. And then that was not always the best way to do a Sunday, because once you start, if you don't want to fall asleep, you can't stop.
Yeah, you gotta keep it. I do find I'm way more of a beer guy than a liquor guy for that reason, because beer, I feel like you pace much easier, and you can just keep it going and you're fine. The minute you start taking shots or pounding hard stuff, there's a tipping point where you're not going to be standing up for much longer.
And Monday is destroyed.
Yeah,
it's not what a Monday should be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as you get older, beer is more challenging. That's why Ollie calls me fat man. He says, like, why are you so squidgy?
You got to work it. Yeah, you got to work it off. You got to work that stuff off. More diving. I guess you got to do more diving.
More diving, more sailing, more everything. Yeah. So
that's my excuse for fishing.
Sending me to the beach. He says, when you finish your podcast, go to the beach and have a swim. Right. That's what he said to me 2 days ago. Right. we got to get the squidgy off you. He squeezes my belly like this.
Hey, you don't want to be cold though. Like, it's good to have the right amount of insulation.
Yeah, but you're never cold here. It's 85 degrees all day, every day.
Well, that
365 days a year.
I'm sitting here. It's like 75 in my house, and I'm like sweating. Right. It's like 75 is too hot for me. I can hardly handle it.
Yeah. No, it's crazy how much water we have to drink here. Like just gallons, nonstop, all day.
I saw Skip, who's one of our dudes, sent a note in here. I'm just looking at the feed. And he had a really good point about bookkeeping too, where like stuff gets sideways, which is every business owner likes looking at their P&L, or at least kind of knows what a profit and loss is. And so they'll go look at it, and they totally neglect their balance sheet. And when the first thing we do when we do bookkeeping is look at people's balance sheet. I don't even look at their P&L. The balance sheet tells you everything that's wrong in their business. It's just like, like, usually not everything that's wrong with how they run the business, but everything that's been done wrong from an accounting standpoint is on their balance sheet. It's like just where shit goes to die. And it dies and it stays there, and nobody ever goes and cleans it up. So that's like the first thing we do when we get in there. Because if your balance sheet's wrong, so is your P&L. And if you don't look at your balance sheet and it's got a bunch of shit on it, and then you go look at your P&L and you think you're making decisions with the right data, there's a really good chance you're not, because it's effed up, because what's on your balance sheet is screwed up. All symbiotic, or there's probably a better word for it than that, but
I'm so blown away with how you've described everything. But I'll tell you something that you'll find, which you probably know about China, but what's fascinating about China is that everything is inspected. You can't create an invoice. You get issued your invoices with individual numbers from the government, right? And then all your payments and your invoicing, like, the bank is owned by the government. So, So they match your payments to your invoices. The bank does it. Like, you cannot You can't fudge anything. And then so let's say
that's how they make sure they get the right amount of money from you.
And the Chinese mind is similar to the Indian mind. The business mind is, can I outthink the system? That's where their entrepreneurialism is. Can I outthink you? Can I spend more time thinking about something, surveying, quantity surveying, thinking descriptions? What did you miss? If I can find something that you missed in a description, I will cheapen that part because you haven't defined that part. And then we say cheap, made a cheapy shit, made in China. And the reality is really bad purchasing.
Yeah.
Didn't define. Send me some carbon fiber poles. Okay. 100% carbon fiber. Okay. Section 1 is 100% carbon fiber. There goes your 100% carbon fiber pole. And I see them. I see what the other guys are buying when they're just buying out of China. And I go, I know how they work. I know because they try it on me. But we've been here for 15. We've been in China for 15 years. I'm not now, but but the other one is if a distributor buys some stuff from us, he sends the money to our factory, and then we've got 90 days to do a matching export. You know what I mean? It's fascinating that so our bookkeeping, but we don't have anybody like you saying this is how you interpret the bookkeeping. But from a bookkeeping view, the bookkeeping is not I got my QuickBooks and I got my accountant and all that. Three people in our system that manage all of that so that we're legal,
Well, especially with inventory. Anytime you've got products involved, it's like 10x because the materials and the way the inventory moves through and what did you make and what's in progress and what's at the plant and what got shipped. That's a hell of a lot more than did we clean it today? Did it get done or not?
Well, then we get the tax rebate. They give us 13% back when we export. If we export the right way, if we value it the right way, if you've actually made profit on it, like that. So anyway, it's a fascinating difference from when I was in Australia where we're kind of, how do I want my books to look?
Yeah. What can I move here, move there?
Yeah, it was kind of discretionary based on me.
Yeah. I say this one's expensible versus distribution. Let's do it this way.
Exactly that. Yeah. Wow. So if you had a target customer, and if you've got another half an hour, we'll go another half an hour. Are you good?
I'm just gonna go until I got to pee. That's gonna be my cutoff. Yeah.
Okay. Fair call. You didn't bring a Gatorade bottle?
I didn't. I'm looking around though. Let's see what we got. Just pee back into the ice cooler. I'll be fine.
Because that's another thing. Another thing. In America, you're not allowed to pee in public, right? But you would have.
You're not supposed to, but I'm a dude. Right. I pee outside. I pee where I want. I got to mark my territory.
God, you can be in China. You get out of the airport. You can catch a taxi. You're going to go to your hotel. The guy has been sitting there for. You've been sitting there for charity. Dudes need Gatorade bottles, not beer bottles. Is too difficult.
That'd be. I don't, and it's just going to overflow, and then what? Then what's going to happen?
Yeah,
Dumb and Dumber.
That's right. He said, "Come on, is Charity do work with you? Is she a bookkeeper?"
Yeah.
Oh, come on, Charity. 2 beers in and 1 beer bottle out. Oh, look what I did.
You got the balloons going off.
That's not good book. That's not good. That's not good accounting, right? Two beers in, 2 beers are going to come out. You cannot.
Who says I didn't have one before we sat down?
That's right. Damn right. You're a loosey goosey. There's no doubt about that.
I did.
Good. Yeah. So you can get out of the airport in Shanghai, get into a taxi, go to your hotel. That guy's been sitting there in a queue with 1 million taxis for an hour, and he's been drinking his tea. As you know, they all drink tea, right? He pulls up, comes out of the airport, pulls up on the freeway, pulls over to the side, just says, wait there. Clock's still ticking, climbs out, pees on a tree.
Yep.
Gets back in, takes you to your hotel. It's completely not wrong,
Nope.
And it makes sense, actually, to me.
I've seen it. The world is their toilet.
That world is their toilet. The Shanghai is much better now, but I always wondered why people take their shoes off in the Asian countries when they go into their houses. Like, I never do. But actually, if you do see, especially like once you get out of the cities now, but in the old days, like if you go back 10 years ago or more, when you were there, like there's a
the
lot of
shit
pee
that's
and
on the
poo. There's
bottom
a
of your
lot of
shoes.
pee and
You would
poo.
want
There's a lot of
everybody
pee
else to
and
take
poo
their
on the
shoes off,
footpath.
too.
Yeah, you don't want to take your shoes off before you go into your house.
Now that you mention that, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah,
that is pretty disgusting.
I'm sure that's it.
That's got to be.
I'm sure that's it, because they won't step in water either, because there might be electricity. Somebody might have got a live wire somewhere, so they'll avoid stepping in water because it could kill you.
Damn. The things I don't think about in a day.
That's it. Well, I still don't take my shoes off, but Thailand's not like that. Thailand's, I don't know why, but they're not like that.
They're missing out.
I think the funniest thing to me is about living in China was that you'd have somebody that come in, because Shanghai is a destination for tourism, for Chinese tourism. So they'd come in from the farm. It's like you guys going to New York, to the big city, So they'd come in and look at the Bund and look at all the beautiful big buildings and all that. But they really come from the farm culture, and in the farm culture, you need to pee, you pee here. You don't walk over there to pee, and if you need to poo, you poo here. You don't walk over there to poo or whatever. But they have that. If I go back, back 10 years ago, they would just, like, there's a piece of grass over there, and then they're holding their kid here where I walk. And you go.
That was the weird
dropping
thing.
It on the
footpath. Shanghai. Yeah, I saw like a lady.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. I was just like, what? Like, there's a lot of other places this could be happening. What are we doing here?
What's wrong with that piece of grass 5 meters away?
Yeah. Marking territory.
No, but India's way worse. They tell me. I've never been to India. They say it is just way worse.
They do have like the same amount of people packed in 1/3 of the area or something. So it's just tight quarters.
Tight quarters, yeah. So there you go. Hey, let's talk about scale, because you've seen how big money can get. What do you reckon, from just a rent point of view, determines whether somebody should scale to multiple trucks or not?
I think it more goes back to what personally is their goal, not their goal of money necessarily, but what set of problems do they want? And that was kind of one of the reasons I built this business the way I built it. Is to me, it's not like I need to make the most money possible. That would maybe change. My wife has a great job, and so maybe that my perception of it would change if she wasn't working or had a different lifestyle. Right. But to me, it's the point of this is not make as much money as possible. It's like, I want to work with the coolest people in the world and have as much fun doing business as possible. And if I do that right, I think it'll make a lot of money too, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed to it making money, but in a funny way, like I always kind of found that if you go directly at sales and money, it tends to trip you up because it feels like you're a used car salesman. When you focus on the things that are better at generating money, which is being really honest, working your ass off, and trying to find ways to help people, that has nothing to do with, none of those things have anything to do with money. But if you do those things, people are generally willing to pay you for it. And so
it's a very interesting thing you're saying. I had my own business selling these accounting systems. Then the head office asked me to move from the country. I was in Tamworth, and I'd sold the whole town, right? And then they asked me to go to Sydney, right, and have a go at Sydney, because I was going down to Sydney and getting the franchises and then coming back home, which was another funny experience. But when I got there, there was an old dude who was the manager there, and as time passed, he said to me, "You're really greedy." And I go, "No, I am not greedy. I am hungry." And he said, "Well, let me ask you this." Wise dude. He said, "If you were greedy, how would you behave?" And I go, oh, that's how I'm behaving. I'm behaving greedy. Like, he taught me a most beautiful
that was a cool question
segue into introspection, to see I'm the emperor with no clothes, right? I think I'm not greedy, and I'm being greedy, and but I was, Christian values. Like, I don't do greed, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm hungry,
Yeah.
But I was, and there's one of the life-changing, and I've used it so much in raising Harrison and Ollie and helping other people as well. Like, if somebody calls you something, you say, I'm not that. Well, what would you look like if you were that?
Yeah.
Try that on, and now compare that to how you're being. And it's amazing.
That's super cool.
And yeah, and it really, that and a number of other experiences really taught me to love life. I mean, Harrison said I've never been into money, but people have always perceived that I am into money, because I'm really ambitious,
Mm-hmm.
But it, the sacrifice of, you've got 3 little children, 8, 6, and 2.
8, 6, and 2.
Yeah, and you go, the sacrifice of that time with them, the money, and then how much money, and you get to the end of your life, and how much money have you got left over? So you get to 75 with $1 million extra that you gave up the time your kids were growing to get the $1 million that you got,
that you didn't even spend.
Fold yourself up, roll yourself up in your body, and like, and somehow I need to leave it to my kids. Well, like, really? Like, how about you teach your kids how to hunt? And
yeah, I want to leave with them
find
like
water,
the ability to go get their own value. I don't want them to have any. I was talking this with a guy, Brandon, who I was out at a holiday light convention with, and we were actually out on a boat a couple days ago with Jeremy Jennings, who I see popping up in the comments here. There were a few of us out on a boat fishing together. And we were talking about that, and I was like, I'm trying to like not leave my kids any money. And if they do inherit any money, they have to earn it. Like they get it like it's a job. Like, the important thing to me is that I teach them how to create value.
Yes.
If I make $1 billion, it's not going to them. That what a hindrance. They would not know how to treat people well. They wouldn't know how to work hard. It'd be the worst death certificate I could give them if I gave them money. Nobody turns out great that's given money. People that have the opportunity to earn money turn out great because they know how to create value and work hard. That's my job.
Look, the first rule of parenting is, like, as soon as possible, do not give your kids anything for free. Like, Harrison wanted to come to China, right? At one point he didn't, and then he wanted to. And I go, okay, pay half your ticket. He wanted to go skydiving. Okay, you can go skydiving. He was 16 or whatever. I said, or 15, 14. And I said, okay, pay half your ticket. Half your skydiving thing. I'll put the other half in, and I'll buy the video because I'm interested in watching the video.
Yeah.
And but funnily enough, after, I'll tell you a funny story, right? Because this is money. And so after he went skydiving, we were in New Zealand, and we lived in Australia, right? So I was going to fly home, and I thought, and I'd read Richard Branson's story about how his parents gave him his induction to manhood, right? Because our culture doesn't have any induction like the indigenous peoples do, or other cultures like the Greeks. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to say, okay, you can stay in New Zealand. I'll give you $50 a day. And I've moved if you agree, I'll move your ticket 1 week, and you can just do what you do. Don't ring me. Don't ring my friends. You're on your own.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got to be 15 because we came to China when he was 16, late 16, 17. So he goes, okay. Right. So I got my friends to drop him off at the YMCA, hostel. And he was cold. So he bought a blanket for $50. And he didn't ask them if they had a blanket because he's cold. He went and bought a blanket. So that was his first day's money gone. And then he's sitting in there in the hostel. This is how he tells the story, right? And then And he goes, the first 3 days, I told everybody my dad made me do this, right? And they all felt sorry for me, right? And then one day it dawned on me, my dad asked me if I wanted to do this, right?
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's the ripple effect. Yeah. So then he found somebody that he met in the hostel. They'd gone home. Can I come and stay with you? Can I come and stay with you? And then he ended up back in Australia 7 days later. I never spoke a word. He never spoke a word to my friends, and he made it, which was amazing. But if he hadn't jumped out and done the skydive, I wouldn't have done that, because I wouldn't. I said the ripple effect of this is you can do anything, and then I gave him an anything thing to do.
I'll give you the noose and you can hang yourself with it. I'll give you the rope.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah. So,
that's a great lesson, though. Like, that's a lesson you never forget. That's like
absolutely
sticks with you for the rest of your life type of lesson.
Yeah. And then you feel, because we, the context is, how much money do we give our kids? How much money do we need to save? How hard do we need to work? How much lifestyle does our business give us? Or am I on this treadmill of making money because I set up maybe you've got a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old belief system or self-instruction that I need to work this hard and I need to get this much money and I need to be this successful. And you've got peers that you're comparing yourself to. This guy's got 6 trucks. That guy's got 10 trucks. I've got 1 truck, 2 trucks. This is where I think, if I full circle it, I think listening to how you coach your clients is so inspiring, and it's too many things for words for me, because I really feel that you could help people find that the balance which makes life beautiful, which I didn't have. Like, I'm talking as an older guy saying, dude, yeah. I worked 16, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. I never stopped.
Yeah.
And
I think there's a good place for that too, in that,
yes,
when I look back at the things I'm most proud of, they all involved hard work. And my hobbies do too, right? Like, I'm out bow hunting, getting up at 3 a.m., trudging out into the middle of nowhere, trying to shoot big bucks and drag them out of the woods. And I cut them up and butcher them all myself. And it probably costs more than the damn meat at the grocery store anyway, by the time it's all said and done. And it's working your ass off. There's nothing wrong with working your ass off. I'd say that's like the things that usually make you diving is not an easy thing.
No,
like, you don't go diving because you're like if you were looking for easy shit, you just go sit on the beach. You wouldn't go out diving.
Oh yeah, this is not about doing life easy. This is just making sure that you're actually doing life.
Yeah, you got to get out there. So,
and that you're not stressed. Like, you shouldn't be just anxious, or you should be intentional. I suppose that's the best word, right? Intentional about life. I have children. I need to be a father. I'm breathing. I'm healthy. I'm strong. I'm powerful. I should be being strong and powerful, like those things, as well as, and I add value. I mean, I totally love what you said, is the most beautiful way to make money is to add value, like true value, and then let the money come to you, and let the market tell you what your mark is. And if you need to work harder or get more people, that's cool.
Build it at the pace that the market desires it. And if the market doesn't desire it, tweak some things so the market wants the thing that you like to make.
Yes.
You had asked, back to the start of this convo, you had asked, like, what dictates the scaling? Like, how should people scale their business?
Yes, I digressed.
And my answer was, it kind of depends on where they're at. Yeah. And I just tend to find the reason why I'm very, like, our business is growing like crazy. I mean, we just started in September and we're going to have 100 bookkeeping clients before the end of May. We're as fast as we can possibly grow. I have one account manager set to start in 2 weeks, and then another one that I'm emailing back and forth with. And I have 12 in what I call my hopper, like, that I've already interviewed, pre-screened, ready to go. Like, I'm putting the pieces in place very proactively.
Nice.
Only, like, again, I'm not trying to pile up a ton of money, but the market is demanding, like, we need more of this. We need more of this. And I'm like, I need to make sure, for my employees' sake, that they have the best coworkers, and for my customers' sake, that they have the best account managers. Like, we need to be way out in front of the demand. So we're not what I call dumpster hiring, where you reactively hire shitty employees because you're like, I need somebody. Done that, been there, done that. But I think the stage of your life that you're in also dictates the style of business that you want to run.
Yes.
And so scaling is not for everybody. Just like having kids is not for everybody. And being married is not for everybody. There's a lot of societal pressure to do these sorts of things. And if you look at any social media page and you're not scaling your business, you're going to feel like a dumbass because everybody out there is telling you and taking pictures of all their fucking trucks, even though they're losing a shitload of money. They don't tell you that.
Yes,
but they just want to rub in that they have 12 trucks and they're not making any money, right?
Or they bought themselves a sports car. That's even worse.
Yeah, that one really doesn't make any money.
No.
And
that
so
worries the hell out of me when I see that post.
Yeah. Like, that's your new sales car. Yeah, you better start selling, boy. But like figuring that answer out has nothing to do with not nothing to do with like you're gonna have goals and things you want to go accomplish, but it should really be about the set of problems you want. There's a certain set of problems that you're going to entertain when you're starting a business, and they suck. And if you're watching this and you own a business, like you probably know what I'm talking about. Like starting a business is expensive and it's hard. And then you kind of hit a threshold where it's you and a helper, and you're like, sweet, like I'm doing 200,000 in revenue or wherever I'm at. If I double and like I'm doing 200,000 revenue and I'm making like $100,000. If I do 400,000 in revenue, I'm going to make 200,000 bucks. And so they start taking on this next set of problems, which is like, I'm going to get vehicle number 2 and I'm going to hire an admin person. I'm going to start marketing more and I'm going to go rent this location, and they do 400,000 and they make 30,000 bucks, maybe. And they go, oh shit. Like, what did I sign myself up for? Like,
and then as you said, now these are not easily reversible decisions. So now you're on, you might as well have a student loan. Now you belong.
Yeah.
you belong to
you decided. You decided.
That's it.
And that's a fine set of problems. It's a new set of problems, right? Now you're trying to learn how to hire people and set up trucks that 20-year-old kids can drive. And you realize I can't scale a pressure washing business with a bunch of trailers unless I only hire kids that fish. Because who else can back up a damn trailer when they're 20 years old? Only fishermen. That's it. Like you're screwed otherwise. And so you start like realizing all these goofy things and like, oh, I need to hire this admin, and I tried to hire somebody locally. Maybe I need a VA or whatever it is. Or here's the marketing that I thought worked, but now I need this much more marketing. So there's these lessons learned. And then we tend to hit a plateau, and this is super generic for exterior cleaning stuff, but we hit a sweet spot in like 500,000 to 600,000 bucks. And we go like, oh, I made it. But everybody says I need to be $1 million business.
Right.
And so then you try to go for $1 million, and all of a sudden you realize like, oh, now I need
down
to
you go again.
And like you thought you were through the shitty times, and now
now back to my 100,000 a year. Yeah. And now I'm going back to 30.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. Like I have seen multi-million-dollar businesses lose hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes,
the bigger the business is, yes, it can make more money, but equally it can lose more money. You have so many more problems and people working for you that can spend all of your money. Yes. And that's not good or bad. It's just a different set of problems. And if you like to go out and clean stuff, scaling a business to $1 million or $2 million or $3 million bucks is not the right business for you. Maybe someday it is when you're ready for that set of problems. But if you still like going out and cleaning stuff and you don't like playing CEO and doing bureaucratic office bullshit, don't scale your business, because when you scale a business, you end up being CEO, smart. And it's not fun for everybody. And maybe someday that's what you want, but like run the business you want. Don't eat into all the pressure of social media and society telling you like, you got to grow this cool ass thing or you're a failure. No, like run the business you want. And it's fine to stay in a sweet spot. I think especially too, like dude with little kids here, there's times in your life due to your circumstances where it's like, no, like stay there. Like that's a sweet spot to be, because you have tons of freedom and you can work a lot less and spend a shitload of time with your kids. And
I was a single dad. I was national sales manager for VIP Home Services, a franchise group. And I was traveling every day to a different city, giving presentations, selling franchises. I sold over 250 franchises in 3 years and, or 2.5 years. And one day, and I had custody of 2 kids, a 12-year-old or maybe 13-year-old and 11-year-old. Harrison was the 11-year-old. And I sat on this airplane. Oh, that's right. I went to leave in the morning, give my kids a kiss goodbye, right? Send yourself off to school, whatever. And they go, Dad. I go, yeah. And they go, you don't love us, do you? I go, what?
That's pretty fucking hard to hear.
Whoa, right. What the fuck? Anyway, so I go, what do you mean? Well, you're never here. And I go, okay, I do love you. That's why I'm working so hard, right? Because it's just me. I ain't getting no custody from anybody, like any child support money.
Yeah.
So I got to work hard. You're in private school. You got dance lessons. You're in getting basketball. Like I'm doing all this stuff and juggling it all. And then I have to go and do all these presentations and get these sales. And so anyway, we got on the plane that morning because I still had the commitment, you know. So I said, I'll see you tonight. And I sat next to a guy on an airplane, and I call him an angel, and I really believe in this concept of being an angel for other people. And I told him my story, and he said to me, dude, he said, you got to make a decision right now. You're going to raise your children or make money. But I'll give you a tip. You can make money later. You cannot raise your children later.
That's some wisdom.
Right. And I quit my job as national sales manager the next day and became state sales manager. So I could still, you know, sell franchises, but I just didn't travel. Mm-hmm. And now Harrison, you know, he's been with me his whole life. He's general manager of our factory. We're best friends, you know, like, you know, we love each other. And Bree, the older, she's married and got kids and all that stuff, you know, so she's, you know, off in a different world. But, you know, like that was such a, you know, but I still work really hard. I'm not, you know, so people say work smarter rather than harder. And I go, sometimes working harder is smarter, you know, like, so I'm not anti work hard. I just always feel that, you know, if I have retrospective thoughts, I should always share with the younger guys, because I've been where you are and you haven't been where I am. And I can have some reflection and say, I fucked up. Excuse me, I never say that on this, but you opened the door for me.
Yeah, I gave you permission on your own podcast to drop an F-bomb. Yeah. I'm more of an ask for forgiveness than permission sort of dude.
That's it. I'm smart enough to have done more with less time and spent more time with my family. Mm-hmm. I'm smart enough to, but I didn't. I wasn't smart enough to make that decision. And I just want to always just encourage people just to take that moment and say, try it on. If you are being selfish, or if you are being caught we've just been diving, right? And we go through these, you know, this huge boulders, and then the boulders have fallen, and there's a channel, right? So you're swimming through with your scuba gear in this channel, but there's a swell, right? So you go in, right, and maybe the swell is coming back towards you, right? So you're just paddling in, la 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 la, and the next minute you're a bullet, right? You're just going shoo, like this. So you know, and so our coach goes through first and says, "Is this safe for these guys? Because they haven't done a whole lot of these, you know." So we've got a couple of little ones, but we saw one of the big ones, and the dive coach from the other school, he said he did that one, and he was just saying it was just like hands out, like
you feel like freaking Superman.
Right? And sometimes we make decisions in business and we end up in this, we're just getting swept along, and we don't know the way out. We don't know anything about it, and it's just worth saying, well, try it on. If that's you, try it on and say, is this where I want to be? If it's where you want to be, sweet. But just try it on and say, am I running myself on past decisions that are no longer current, and I'm sacrificing things that I really will and do and want to treasure? Because there's nothing more beautiful than having one of your own children be your close friend. There's nothing more beautiful than that in life, I think.
Yeah. I think it's a weird thing for business owners with kids too. It's like, I want them to see me working hard. I want them to know that is a thing.
And what you
don't
do.
Just, it's like, I don't want you to think shit just shows up here. Like, Everything is earned. Nothing is
Good
given.
on you.
And even if
Good
you
on
were
you.
just given something, like that kind of sucks. It's way more fun when you earn it. When I podcast for Home Service Happy Hour, I always close out every episode with work smarter and harder. Go earn some pride. Like it's great to work smart. And then when you work smart, work hard too. You'll get even more shit done. But like also work hard at being a dad, and also work hard at being a husband, and work hard at all the different phases of your life.
Being a hunter.
Yeah. Like work
So
hard
you
at
work
everything.
hard at everything.
Why would you why would you do any less? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like I try to hunt smart too, but
right.
It's not like that doesn't mean I'm sleeping in. It means I'm just gonna get up and go in even deeper.
No.
Right. And I'm gonna try to find the most efficient way to get there. And I'm gonna try to fool a deer this way or that way. And fishing is kind of the same way.
Don't watch television,
Yeah, try to limit the damn screen time, man.
Don't, Hey, before you have to tie a knot in it, because I'm not letting you go yet, I want to ask you one quick question on the geopolitics, the state of the nation, $35 trillion in debt. The US
Damn,
dollar.
I wish you would have told me that. I try to avoid these sorts of things.
No, but just where I'm going to lead it to is just funnel it right down to how it could affect the home services industry, what we can do about it. Because I noticed Charity wrote 10 autos, 12 trucks, and 12 auto loans, and that's what made me come to this and say, that again, if I talk to Carlos Gonzalez, Ray Burke, Dougie Doo, the old guys in the industry, we've all been through those difficult times of 1998, 97, 98, 2008. We've been through these cycles right before, and the younger guys who are so ambitious and so hungry and so business and so marketing and so everything but they've really,
especially like the last 10 years have just been on upswing.
Only been on upswing. And you could have heard me be interviewed by Ray and Dougie a year ago, and I was saying there's tough times coming. But they keep printing money, so they push the tough times out. I think
they just keep pushing it out. We just don't deal with it. We just keep not dealing with it.
But it's getting worse and worse. And so I'll open with my simple advice. My simple advice is understand that frequency of service may reduce from a corporate point of view if you have corporate clients. People that are Esquire who own their own homes and have money, right? It won't affect them. So that's the desired customer, But so those are my two, probably just that. Like if you've got normal people as your customers and only normal people are the customers, they may need to make a decision due to inflation.
Yeah, they're going to make some trade-offs, and they might be leveraged to the hilt on their $500,000 house, and they
might be leveraged to the hilt, and but when in America, is it if they borrowed at a house on 2%, is that for 5 years like the corporate loans, or is that actually 2% forever?
It's usually like 2 to 3 for 30, but now it's 7. Like all the new interest rates are upper single digits usually.
But 7% or 7 years?
7% for like 30 years.
Oh, so they can't variable you like the corporate loans are 5 years, right?
They can. Mostly. It just depends what you sign up for. And if you're not on top of your game, you maybe sign up for a variable rate loan, because instead of a 7%, they'll give you a 6% variable rate. And
right. But so most of the householders who borrowed for their home at 2% are not going to have to renew that in 2024, 2025 and be hit with 7%. That's not going to happen.
No, I think most of them are locked in and probably like refinance their way down. But that's not to say everybody, and that's not to say people didn't still outspend. I mean, like our housing market's been nuts. So it's not like people aren't spending money they don't have, because banks just keep. It's funny. It's like, as a business owner, they won't give me money, but they'll give some jackass more than he should ever buy in a house. And I'm just like, what? Like that person cannot afford a $500,000 house. Like they probably can't afford a $200,000 house. Like what?
Yeah, then you get the unemployment, right? Because then there's the unemployment. So you could end up. I mean, people don't understand that if some of the countries in the world, like Greece or whatever, went to 30% unemployment, 45% youth unemployment. Like crazy. So Skip's in there. There's a massive marketing to push. HELOCs. What's a HELOC?
I don't know. Skip, type in what a HELOC is.
Good on you, Skip. You're the bright boy in the room. So what do you reckon? Like what would be your 3 to 5 pointers of what to do now if you identified that you have a business or home equity line of credit? There you go. Oh, shit.
Just borrowing more against the value of your house. Double down, baby.
That's it. Oh yeah, go and get yourself a new car because your house is worth so much more
let's
now.
Leverage some more. Yeah.
Oh God. But then is that done at the new rate or
usually,
the old rate? Probably at the new rate.
Usually,
yeah. So 3 to 5 pointers about what you could do to prepare. To risk reduction. That's probably my meaning.
I don't think the right idea is clam up and stop trying to grow. Like
nope.
that can be troublesome, but I do think make sure, and this shouldn't go with a recession necessarily. You should do this anyway, but it's easier to get lost on it when work is flying out of the woodwork.
When the phone doesn't ring.
When the phone doesn't ring, I think you just got to really scrutinize your marketing acquisition cost. And like, you got to go back to the basic stuff, right? Which is like maybe Google ads gets really out of whack and running other digital ads gets really out of whack. Like door knocking is still a thing, right?
Yeah.
Boots on the ground always gets a better return than anything. Yard signs, flyers, door knocking. And so it's easy when times are good to spend money on digital marketing and not say don't do it. Just scrutinize the shit out of it and make sure it's working, right? And any digital free real estate. If it's Google local service or not local service ads necessarily, but just your Google My Business page and a Yelp page and a Facebook page, like Nextdoor, get all the free local stuff you can and try to be as branded as you can in that space just for awareness purposes. But don't intentionally like shut her down and clam up because that
is horrific. A shrinking revenue because you've explained why, because you've got all these
the infrastructure
you've made. Mm-hmm. You got that's what you called it, the infrastructure. You've got the financial infrastructure of running this business. You start shrinking, you start becoming that person where you're starting to have to choose what you can and can't. And then eventually you start borrowing into you see guys going into overdraft, thinking they're going to come out the other end. This is not got another end. Like this is not the time to be shrinking a business. I agree with you.
And when marketing works significantly worse and the acquisition cost is getting worse and the customers aren't out there, chances are it's happening that way for everybody. And so get more opportunistic on buying other businesses because that is just another form of client acquisition and might even come with a couple good employees too. And usually you can buy a home service business without having to put a bunch of money up front because their alternatives are sell it to you for some sort of % of revenue deal or just shut down. And they might as well sell it to something for any clients that sign up with you. So you can figure out what your acquisition cost is and pay a % of the future revenue of those clients back to that former business owner. So just be opportunistic on buying client lists and buying businesses from other people, because that's a great form of marketing when things start to slide. Find your competitors that maybe aren't doing stuff the right way and over leveraged and over infrastructured and need to shut her down or sell it and scoop up their assets in their client list. I always push our clients to try to stay infrastructure light. Like be really thoughtful about your admin team and how they get paid and how it ties them back to revenue, and be really thoughtful about when you go rent that big facility and all these different fixed costs you put in place. Like try to stay as skinny as you can on that, for one, because like you can't pass that along to Mrs. Jones. There's a lot of costs you can pass along to Mrs. Jones, but if you go to her and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm raising my prices because I just rented a huge facility and I got to make sure that shit's paid for. Like Mrs. Jones says, I don't care. I never come to your huge facility. That adds no value to me. The example I like to give is it's the same as when an employee comes to you and says, hey, Perry, I just went and bought that new sports car, so I need you to pay me more so that I can afford the car.
Right. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know why this all of a sudden turned into my problem. Like, I feel like you shouldn't have bought that car. It's the same thing when you're out there and you go rent too big of a place.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
now you got some shit you can't afford, and how are you going to pass along to your client if you tell them, hey, I need to raise your price? They're going to say, no, like, I'm going to go find somebody else, right? So just like take it easy on the infrastructure.
I've got a quick insert in there. Like, for example, we don't give credit anywhere. The reason we don't give credit is not because we're worried about whether people will pay us or not. It's a $50,000 job, accounts receivables. Somebody's got, I mean, it's also because that once you give credit, you give that money away to that person forever because they're never going to give it back to you. They're always going to use it. But the second one is there's a $50,000 a year job sitting right there. Somebody ring them up, say, when are you going to pay me? When are you going to pay me? When are you going to pay me?
Yeah, now you're paying the collections person.
Right.
More infrastructure, more admin
It's
overhead.
easier to lose sales. You need credit. I'm sorry you don't have cash. See ya. Right? Because I take cash.
Yep.
Anyway, carry on.
No, I mean, I think that's it. It's be opportunistic on your marketing. Be thoughtful about your marketing. Sure as hell, make sure like cost of goods sold is always going to be the you got to get that right. If you can't operate efficiently and know how much money you make when you go out and do work, for sure, if you're not paying commission style pay, like performance pay rates.
Yes.
Think about that big time. Like,
that's it.
I assume people are doing that. If they're not doing that, like, freaking message me on Facebook or something. Like, you got to get doing performance-based pay.
I'll tell you what, if you're good, let's come back to this one because this is we're kind of cramming a lot of stuff here, and I think this is really worth because what fascinates me about you is that you've seen how big money can be, and that's rare to find a guy looking after people in our industry who's you know what I mean. If you're going to ask somebody, they have to help you. It's if they've been where you want to be, right? First, they have to have been where you are, and then they have to have been where you want to be. They've walked that road. You haven't. That person can talk about what that road can look like. They don't know what it looks like because it's in the future. It's an imagination, but they've been on that road. And I think that would be an amazing conversation just to talk about, you know, some of the macros. You know, and the algorithm of how it could go left or right, or we can just, you know, what if this happened? What if that happened? You know, there's so many decisions.
Let me lay it out this way, because there's a beauty in performance-based pay and its simplicity, which is you tend to attract people that like to work hard, which we've already talked about. There's some value in that, and they have the upside in their hard work. The business does too. But they have the upside in their hard work. Unlike when you pay somebody hourly and they only have upside in not working hard. And that creates a really goofy incentive. And there's a really like defining trait that happens here, which is when you write somebody a huge ass paycheck when they're hourly, it gives you massive heartburn and you lose sleep over it. It sucks. You're like, what? Like, how much? Like, what am I paying for here?
Yeah.
When you write somebody a big ass paycheck and they're paid a % of revenue, you get excited. You are like, hell yeah. How do we do more of that? Let's replicate that over and over and over again. I want to write you more massive paychecks. And for one, like, that's way more fun. And again, my goal in my business is I just want to have as much fun as possible, helping as many people as possible. And if I can write huge paychecks every day, that's amazing.
Yeehaw. Yeah.
The other thing I find is that everything becomes a win-win. You win together. And when somebody's hourly, they can only win when you lose, and you can only win when they lose. And that kind of sucks because then you're just totally at odds with the person who's on your team. And that's pretty hard to be on your team when you win and they lose, or they win and you lose. So if you do performance-based pay and you both get to win together, or like sometimes you lose together, but I played a lot of sports growing up, and like that's part of it is you need to win together and you need to lose together, and that's what makes you tight and badass. So performance-based pay just does all those things, and it just creates such a better, especially for production-based employees where they're out generating revenue. They have to have the upside. It can't be that the dude next to them is working half as hard and making the same amount of money. It can't be. Everybody would hate that.
Yeah.
Nobody works harder because the dude next to them is working half as hard and making as much money. Everybody would work less hard.
Yeah.
But when it's performance-based pay and the dude next to you is crushing it and making a ton of money, and like our employees talk, right? Technicians always talk about how much money they make. We can act like they don't. We can ask them not to, but they're always going to talk about how much money they make. They can't help it. But like, that's fine if they're performance-based pay. Like, talk about it. Let everybody know how much money you made. I don't care. Cool. You crushed it. I want everybody to crush it as much as that.
Absolutely.
That's totally fine. Go earn it. Like, and get the benefit of it. Like, you need to have the upside. And I love it. I'm all about it.
I love it too. I think that's amazing.
Now, so there's the nerdy bookkeeping side of it too, Perry, which is if you can lock in your cost of goods sold and know that when you go do a $1,000 job, you make $550. That's like, in general, that's like for window cleaning or pressure washing, assuming you're not out in the field doing it and you've got a team doing it. Yeah. If you can lock that number in and know that every time your COGS is about 45% and your gross profit is 55%, it gets really easy to grow your business because you know how much money you have to invest in the rest of it. If your gross profit's doing this, it's really hard to be confident how much money you're going to have to spend on marketing and the admin person and this rent bill that's coming. But when you do performance-based pay, that baby's locked in. Like, you know, when the revenue comes, you're paying a percentage of it out, and the rest of it's pretty easy to manage in percentages. And so all of a sudden your margin is like locked in. And now you can grow your business aggressively instead of wondering if you're going to have the money to grow it or not.
Yes. And then you've got your digital, your digital marketing, money, you know that you've got profit to say, okay, I'm punting, because you're really using yesterday's money to attract tomorrow's customer, isn't it? Like it's a funny little time warp, in reality. Yeah.
But then instead of the uncertainty of like, how much do I have? It's just becomes the uncertainty of how well is what I have going to return me money. Like, you move on to the next phase, which is, I don't know how much I'm going to have to invest. So maybe I'm going to be like kind of close to the vest on it versus I know I did $1,000 job and I got $550 to invest. And here's how much I'm going to invest. And now the decision isn't, should I invest in marketing or not? The decision is, where do I want to put my marketing dollars? Do I want to do more of this or more of that? Or more of this and more of that? And it's just more fun to play the game of business that way.
Dude, amazing conversation. Very, very enjoyable. I'm going to have you back if I may. I know, right? I know. Yeah. You're my first one when I come back. I was a bit worried because we don't know each other from anything, not one word. Just I sent you this message, say, dude, you sound interesting. Can I have you on my podcast? Right?
Let's hang out and chat. Yeah. And now we're an hour 40 in. I feel like if I didn't have to pee, we'd go another hour and 40. I'm sure
exactly. I also like I've stopped sipping my water. I'm gonna need to pee before he does, but I'm competitive, bro. I'm hanging on.
Yeah, let's see who can go longer. We're in this now, Perry. Let's see who can last longer. Work smarter and harder.
Remember, I've got the squidgy belly, right? I can stretch probably, a little bit more than you.
Have me beat on that front. I might have already peed in my cooler. I just didn't tell you that I did. I'm just really good at keeping a straight face.
Or the floor. Mop it up afterwards.
Hey, let's be civilized here. This isn't China, Terry.
That's great.
I just God. Over there. When you said that, I was like, oh, I thought I just saw some weird shit. Like, when people peeing all over the place. Turns out it wasn't that weird. That was just what I was seeing.
It wasn't that weird. That was seeing it for the first time makes it weird.
It does. It does. It's like a plumber's crack on steroids, where you like look back and then you look back again, and maybe a third or fourth time, and you're just like, what is going on over here?
Oh, dearie me. Yes. Wonderful. All right, mate. We should Benji's there. Benji, it's time to wind it up. I got to get rid of Dan and invite him back. To be continued.
Anytime.
Thank you for watching or listening to another Service Six Sigma podcast. If you enjoyed the content, please like and share with other mobile service contractors. We live stream daily, Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. All previous podcasts are available for viewing at service6sigma.com. And for listening on your favorite podcast channel, just search Service Six Sigma. See you next time, and you have an epic day.